Good evening, everybody. What's going on? It's another episode of Our Two Cents. Chris Dobson, Gerry Green. Gerry, we have got a lot to talk about. We've got a great show. Hard to believe that the end of May is here and June is just around the corner, which means we should obviously start this whole thing off by talking about hockey and the Memorial Cup that is currently underway, right? Makes sense. For the first time in 5 years, there we go, there will not be a fifth consecutive Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League Memorial Cup champion. Hey, you know what? Can't win them all. Can't win them all. If you look at the tournament so far that's going on in Saginaw right now, it's been good. I feel for the Drummondville Voltigeur. I mean, coming off an incredible season, you got to feel for them a little bit. But overall, you looked at the player Riley Mercer, and at the end of the day, he just wasn't. It's not his fault by any means. He made some major saves throughout the process. But have you been watching the Mem Cup at all? I mean, what have your thoughts been so far? And where do you think this is going to go?
And I thought his defense let him down. I thought there was some glorious chances, especially versus London, and in the Saginaw game too. The first game actually, I thought he was left out to dry there a little bit. Drummondville was known for having the most offense in the league. Yeah, well, they went up against Baie-Comeau. Baie-Comeau had the best defense, and Drummondville had the best offense. But as you can see, maybe championships are won by defense because it certainly looks like Saginaw and London have a good opportunity. And now Moose Jaw with the victory over Drummondville. Drummondville is going to go 0-3 at the tournament. Is going to have an opportunity as well. And can they bounce back from a couple of losses to the teams that they're going to eventually they're going to meet in the semifinals? But Chris, it really breeds reminiscent of in 2022 when the St. John Sea Dogs. Now, the St. John Sea Dogs got knocked out very early in the playoffs and were hosting and then get an opportunity to win the championship. Saginaw just got knocked out in the semifinals, and they did so by London, and only probably the two losses that London had during the playoffs. And so that's going to be really fun to see those two OHL teams go at it. But again, that little rest doesn't hurt you. I know it was a little extra long for St. John, but I bet you Saginaw is very grateful they had 3 weeks off before the tournament began.
Oh, I'm sure they did, of course. I mean, again, they say that it gives you that opportunity to possibly, heal what might not be perfect. But if you look at both of their records so far in this Memorial Cup, I mean, they're the only two undefeated teams still left in here. Now, with Moose Jaw going in there, right now, statistically speaking, they have an extra game in hand, of course, but the most goals scored for is Moose Jaw at 13. Mind you, they hold the best goals against as well at 13 also. But I have to agree with you. If you look at, Saginaw getting that little bit of an extra break, and we've seen this before, not even just in St. John. I'm just using the QMJHL as an example. Years ago, I remember it happened in Shawinigan as well. Shawinigan was hosting. They were eliminated in the first round, and they came back to win the Memorial Cup, right? That was right after that Brandon Gormley trade that went out there.
Right.
And if I don't think that it's a disadvantage anymore as to what people think it used to be, because you're right. You want to get a chance to play. As long as you keep your players on the ice and active during this time off. Although, that being said, Saginaw going in and losing in the semis, I think is also good, because taking one round off might give you that little bit of an extra break you did need. So, you know what? I don't see it either way. I think a lot of people had Saginaw and London in the final going into this thing. I was a little emotional. I thought Drummondville might have got it done based off of how well the season went. But overall, you can't be disappointed. You have to, give kudos and tip your cap to the Drummondville Voltigeur and everything they accomplished this year, going in with a rookie GM and a rookie head coach. Don't jinx it, but Moncton's gonna be looking to do the same thing next year.
I went down the rabbit hole, Chris, in regards to.
Of course you did.
And we're gonna get to this in a minute in regards to Vincent Trocheck for the New York Rangers. But Trocheck was a Saginaw Spirit. He played 4 seasons in Saginaw. I was trying to track back, and we'll get to it in a minute, Chris. But Trocheck played in Florida. I said, did he used to play there? And I had to go down that rabbit hole, and that rabbit hole took me to Saginaw, and that's where Trocheck, who had a tremendous junior career in Saginaw with the Spirit.
I think Saginaw too. I think Paul Bissonnette played in Saginaw as well. I think the guy. I mean, he's making headlines. I mean, wasn't much of a hockey player, but he's making headlines in the media, right? So overall. I'm sure they can bring it on in.
The Q's streak of winning The Memorial Cup is finally going to come to an end. Yeah, we'll start another one.
Let's continue talking about hockey, and we're going to go to the National Hockey League because there's a lot to unpack here. And if you look at this, we're going to start with the Oilers and the Stars series and looking at what has to take place. And I was doing a bit of research myself on these games, going back and forth, because we have talked about it for 3 years now, it seems, about Connor McDavid and, not being, how is he going to handle it? Is he going to be frustrated? What's going to go on? And then, of course, we criticize them because they didn't go out and get a better goaltender at the trade deadline. I don't know where the disconnect is, Gerry. I mean, I looked at the numbers, and Edmonton was the 4th highest scoring team in the National Hockey League this regular season. Mm-hmm. They've blown multiple 2-goal leads here in the playoffs. They can't seem to get it done when it matters. And I'm at a point where I don't know if this is a Skinner problem. I don't know if this is a defense problem. I don't know what adjustments need to be made. But Connor McDavid, they're not getting the bounces, according to him and Leon Draisaitl. I mean, they're not scoring the goals that they saw. And now, again, I think they're 0 for 5 on the power play, too. That certainly isn't helping. But overall, I mean, where do you go? What adjustments do you make?
Well, Chris, I don't make any. I think it's just Edmonton just likes to make it difficult. That's all they like to do. They have little brain farts every now and then and have lapse in concentration. It happened in the last game against Dallas, 3.5 minutes. It happened to them versus Vancouver, 3.5 minutes. What was the end result? They beat Vancouver in 7 games. I'm not worried about Edmonton a bit, and I'm certainly not worried if Skinner can bounce back. It's been constant dialogue during the playoffs. Skinner gets pulled for 2 games. Can he bounce back? Skinner has a bad game. Can he bounce back? He has. Look where they are. He's doing what he needs to do to get his team to the cup, and I think Connor McDavid's going to make that happen. And that, watching these playoffs, Chris, I think the 4 best teams are there. They're playing highly entertaining hockey, the type of hockey I like, pure entertainment. They're emotional. They're passionate. They're determined. They battle for pucks. Nothing is easy, but the creativity is still there. It's still tremendous hockey. It's not slug-it-out hockey. It's creative, hardworking hockey, and the right plays are being made at the right time. And Chris, and the Stars are making the right plays at the right time. I mean, the Stars for all 4 teams, like the Trocheks and Panarins, and look at Lafreniere and how he's playing in the playoffs.
Highlights.
But then I've never, ever knew how valuable Alexander Barkov is. He is a tremendous player that was taken, I think, 2nd overall, and I forget who 1st overall was that year, Chris, but it was a highly touted player. And I always thought Barkov, you never got to saw him much in Florida, but he is a tremendous player along with Tkachuk and also the other weapons that they have in front. And especially in that series, Chris, the great goaltending that goes on. I'm enjoying immensely the Florida-New York series more because of there seems to be more hatred than the Dallas-Edmonton. But Dallas and Edmonton, a whole lot of creativity, a whole lot of fun to watch hockey. Even if you don't have an oar in the water for any of these teams, if you like hockey, tune it in.
Yeah, so you are right. So that Barkov draft year went Nathan McKinnon 1, Barkov 2, Jonathan Drouin 3.
Yes.
But yeah, that Rangers Panthers series is everything I've wanted. We've seen overtimes. We've seen just animosity. We've seen highlight reel goals. We've seen unbelievable saves. The Tkachuk brother, watching Matthew Tkachuk, even seeing Keith in the stands doing that. I think Matthew overtook Keith from a playoff points perspective in a certain period of time in game 2. That's exciting. The storylines are great. If I'm the National Hockey League right now, if I'm Gary Bettman, I am thrilled with how this is going from a media standpoint. Because
New York's involved, which is the best.
The Mecca, exactly. Yeah. That's what you want to do. So I agree, but what I want to do is I want to pin this on you, and that is, of these 4 teams, if they don't win, where do you see, is anybody, what changes could be coming, and who's going to make the most significant ones? I would have to think it would be Edmonton. Have to.
I know, Chris, but it's the Final 4. You made it to the Final 4 and battled adversity. Maybe a little easy touch against LA, maybe. But Vancouver was a tremendous series, and Vancouver, an underdog type of team throughout the regular season, but they have the quality and the skill up front that they could have won that series as well. Maybe in the net is the only thing you'd have to do. I mean, you had the evolution of Evan Bouchard come out from anywhere, or Bouchard rather, and he's really been your that Norris Trophy type of player offensively. I don't watch him that close defensively. But I don't think any of these teams have anything to be ashamed of if they get knocked out in the semifinals. It's maybe a retool or a retinkering a little bit, but certainly nothing that would have to be dramatic and to be disappointed that you got knocked out in the Western or Eastern final.
I want to mention this quickly, and that is because you mentioned the Vancouver Canucks in that series, and that is after that series had ended, Rick Tocchet was given the Jack Adams. Absolutely well-deserved. I was having a quick chat with our good buddy from Moncton Superstar, Connor Garland, after that series ended. Just had a quick conversation with him. He is coming out east for the summer for a bit, but he told me that hockey in Vancouver is very much back. He is very excited for what's coming next season. Because remember, there's a lot of rumors about him trying to get out, but overall, he had reached out, and I felt for him because he thought they had it. He thought it was a done deal. But overall, let's move on because some big news coming out of New Jersey, and that is, of course, they have hired a new head coach. Sheldon Keefe will be the head coach of the New Jersey Devils starting next season. Your thoughts on this? Will he? Obviously, he's going to be tainted with this whole Toronto Maple Leafs image and everything that's going behind him. I love this hire. I think this is great. New Jersey is going to be a fun team to watch. There's a lot of depth problems in New Jersey, even though people don't seem to think so. There are some issues. The Jake Allen deal that went down late last year is going to give him some solid goaltending in between. They've got a lot of young guys in that roster, but how do you think Sheldon Keefe is going to handle this lineup?
Not knowing that we were going to talk on this subject, and our producer throws different topic lines at us. I'm a regular reader, whether you like him or not, Steve Simmons of the Toronto Sun, I believe. Okay. Regular reader. Get his article in an email every Sunday. And he made an interesting take. He says Sheldon Keefe coached the Maple Leaf team that had uncertain goaltending, a mediocre defense, and a lack of grit along with a lot of talent up front. And still they finished with 102 points. Now he takes over New Jersey with uncertain goaltending, a mediocre defense, a lack of grit along the front end, and offensive talent up front. New Jersey finished with 81 points last year, with what Simmons feels that Keith is walking into an identical situation. I don't think they're handcuffed as much as the Leafs were in improving their team, but there's a lot of question marks in New Jersey that Keith better be aware of and better make sure there's some adjustments too.
I don't agree with the questionable goaltending piece, but everything else I do. I think that Jake Allen acquisition was massive for them, and I think they're going to do just fine. Let's move on to the NBA because we got to talk quickly about the Boston Celtics, only because they seem to ultimately have the easiest path to the NBA Finals, which we talked about a few weeks ago, and they have done just that. They made their way in. They're in the dance. They are waiting now, which arguably could be Dallas. It should be Dallas here soon. But is this the easiest path to a final you've ever seen? I mean, I don't know how long you've been watching the NBA for, but it's got to be one of.
I love the playoffs in the NBA. And I've been watching the playoffs in the NBA. I've been watching a lot of Timberwolves. I was watching a lot of Nuggets. But I just found anytime I went to look for the Celtics, they weren't on because they were sweeping teams in 4 straight games. And so you never got to see them as much as you got to see those other teams that went longer in their series. And yes, I would agree. Just walk your way into the finals and everything fell into place. And they can't be any healthier, I don't think, Chris. It's going to be a tough team to beat. And I think it's going to be Dallas. I think Dallas eventually, with their experience, is going to, take care of the Timberwolves. And so that'll be an interesting combination. I don't think they've ever met each other, let alone in the finals, but in the playoffs. I've never remember ever seeing Boston, Dallas as a headliner to anything.
Well, the best part, and again, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I would have to think that at this point, everything points to Dallas as we are recording this being in the NBA final. The other storyline you're going to see is Kyrie Irving, Kristaps Porzingis playing against their old teams, which did not go well while they were in each other's presence. Again, a good media frenzy. I agree with you. I don't think we have seen that matchup before. I am all aboard the Luka bandwagon right now. I think it's Luka. It's Luka time. It's Luka magic time, and
he's motivated, Chris. He's motivated
as he could not be. And I mean, when he's not playing basketball, he's streaming video games. So it's not like his mind's not clear. So he is there. But overall, I am going to go. I mean, the Celtics Mavericks NBA final, I think, will be great for the NBA. I think it'll be great for the fans. I think everybody wins here.
I think so too, Chris. And I just, hope that it's more than 4 games. I hope it's a competitive final series. That's all I hope.
And, to close this topic off on a bit of a sad note, I mean, we got to talk about the great Bill Walton passing away, Gerry. I know it's not, what an impact he has left and a legacy he has left behind. I mean, we were talking about it off camera before we started recording, and, it'll give you an opportunity here to kind of to promote a few things, but ultimately just respect and show honor for the man who was so great.
Yeah, not only was he a great player, and it was harnessed by injuries along his way, Chris, throughout his career, but doesn't he evolve into a great broadcaster? And not just your cookie cutter type of broadcaster. He was unique in many ways. He grew up in Washington, played in Washington, and had that outdoors type of look to him, and down home type of look, and down home language that he used. And I was reflecting on some clips that they were running way back when. If you remember, Walton played with the Celtics, and I watched. Now, Chris, this is a pet peeve with me, and I watched. And Casey Jones, who was the head coach for Boston Celtics, shirt and tie, looked very good. Had Pat Riley, of course, they were playing against the Lakers. Pat Riley was as dapper as you can get. And then later on, I saw some clips of the 80s and 90s of Chicago against Detroit, and Chuck Daly. You could not find a dapper and more well-dressed man than Chuck Daly. And I'm getting back to why aren't these coaches in the NBA getting rid of these tracksuits, and let's start wearing some business attire. I wanted to get that plug in. Chris, thanks for letting me do that again.
Hey, you know what? That's why we're here, buddy. That's why we're here. All right, we got 2 topics. Where should we go? Let's go Major League Baseball. Let's go there because there's some big news coming out there. We're going to start with other current 6 division leaders. Who are you most confident in right now? The Yankees, Guardians, Mariners, Phillies, Brewers, Dodgers. Go.
Well, it's either the Phillies. No, it's definitely the Dodgers. The Dodgers have found for 5.5 games up on San Francisco and San Diego currently, who have been really trying to find their way. But if you've been seeing the top of the order in LA and what you have to deal with in the top 3 or 4 guys, it's not easy to shut them down offensively. And I don't think about the Yankees because I think the Orioles will give the Yankees a run for their money. And I do think, despite the injury to Acuna, I still think Atlanta will give Philadelphia. They'll come back to the pack a little bit. Philadelphia was. They're playing on a high kite there. And I think Atlanta will give them a battle. But I still think overall it's got to be the LA Dodgers again.
Yeah, I would fully agree with you. I hate to say that I love that the Yankees are playing some good ball right now. It kills me. But overall, I agree with you. I got the Dodgers. We got to talk about some big news in MLB. And, of course, umpire Angel Hernandez has announced his retirement. And I actually had to laugh. The memes that have come out and run with this has made me laugh. One of them said he thought he was signing a contract extension, but he realized he's so blind he signed his own retirement papers. But overall, it could never be a good thing when everyone on planet Earth knows the umpire's name.
It is bad, Chris. And, I'm surprised with all of the social media and all of they must be reviewed, Chris, these umpires. And I know they're in a union and I know all that, but still you'd have to be critiqued and say, come on, Angel, you got to be better than this. And he never got any better. He got worse. And it's amazing how many people know his name. It's because he made so many mistakes, and especially when it came to the strike zone. When he was behind the plate, I think he had some pet peeves with whatever team he was playing, because you cannot be that blind as an umpire. Angel Hernandez was.
There's so many different calls that were made. I saw a full strikeout, not one pitch hit the inside of the zone. I was just stunned by it overall. But I guess from me and every other baseball fan, I guess we could say good riddance. All right, let's talk about golf. Gerry, the Canadian Open is happening right now. I know you've got some thoughts on it. We wanted to touch on it. We wanted to make sure we got it out. But the 2023 RBC Canadian Open, one of golf's most exciting events last year, was both Nick Taylor drained a 72-foot putt in a playoff game. What are your expectations this year? Are you excited? What's your pool look like? Who you taking? What do we got?
Well, I went through the tee times, Chris. There's not a whole bunch of people you can grasp onto. I know Rory's there and Nick Taylor's going to be there to defend. You got Fleetwood there. You got Cameron Young there, and also Shane Lowry. But otherwise, there's not a whole lot of big names. I know Nick Taylor, it was the best call of the year, Chris, when Nick sank that from 72 feet, and Jim Nance Jim Nance, you know how a broadcaster I am, and Jim Nance with his comment, it was just priceless. It is something to adore.
I fully agree with you. I think it's always super exciting when we get to see those things. And, the Canadian Open, something that we enjoy up here in Canada. And I mean, we're golf fans ourselves. So, I'm not allowed to take Rory, but we'll see where it goes. Anyways,
yeah,
everyone's going to take tuned. Now it's time for the Atlantic Scene in our 2 cents. Gerry, take it away.
Thanks, Chris. This week's Atlantic Scene leads off with baseball. Get how I tied that in there? New Brunswick Senior Baseball League has a couple weeks under its belt right now, and Fredericton and Charlottetown lead the standings with 2 wins and 1 loss. But of course, we're very early into the season. 10 days, 14 days in. St. John's even at 1-1, and Chatham and Moncton are 1-2. Games of the week to keep your eye on this week in the New Brunswick Senior Baseball League. The Mets go to Fredericton Friday night to take on the Royals at 7:30, and then Chatham's in Moncton, Monctonians, as they meet up with the Mets for the second time at Kiwanis Park, and it's Sunday at 4 o'clock. And that is 5 games in a row Chatham will play before they have their home opener, which happens a week from tonight on a Thursday night. They love a Thursday night in Chatham for New Brunswick Senior Baseball. The WNBA continues to bounce along, and Fredericton Freeze and the Portland Fog you might have saw them on Rogers TV. They met earlier in the week. The 2 big teams in the league are coming out of Halifax, and Halifax, the Thunder, lead with the Loop with a 5-0 record. Meanwhile, the Lake City 56ers, that's from Dartmouth, they're at 5-1. Both of them are coming to New Brunswick this week. Those are my games of the week, as the Thunder, with their 5-0 record, take on Moncton and the Mystics at 4 p.m. at the Harrison Turnbull High School, and that'll be on Thursday. Matter of fact, no, it's not Thursday; it's Friday, because Saturday Lake City plays 2 games this weekend in New Brunswick. They play in St. John at 7 p.m. at UNBSJ. That's at 7 o'clock against the St. John Fog, or the Port City Fog, rather. And also on Sunday, Lake City then goes to Fredericton to meet up with the Freeze. That's at the LB Gym, and that's at 1 p.m. on Sunday. So some WBA maritime style still continues to roll along here on the Atlantic Scene. It's now time for our 2 cents. Chris, give us some insight. What's on your mind? What is your 2 cents this week?
So what's on my mind this week, and this was a great tie-in, you'd almost think that we had collaborated on what my 2 cents was going to be, because I'm going to go to the WNBA on this, and we're going to talk about Caitlin Clark and the impact that she has had on the WNBA at this point. And the reason my 2 cents on the topic is being brought up, and that is the amount of hate that Caitlin Clark seems to be receiving from inside the WNBA is ridiculous. If you look at everything she's accomplished, sure, the Indiana Fever have an absolute dog water record. They have 1 win on the season. But even if you look at the small things, like Tuesday night, they had a big loss against the LA Sparks. It was like an 88-82 loss. But she broke a WNBA rookie record. She had 30 points, 3 blocks, and 3 assists. And it's things that have never happened before. Since she's joined the WNBA, Gerry, let me just list off a few things that have happened. Number 1, this is the first year the WNBA now has chartered flights for its players, thanks to Caitlin Clark. The Nike deal alone, the exposure she is bringing this league. I watched a game the other night, because of course every Indiana Fever game is on television and broadcasted, and the stands are full. If you're in Indiana, you love Caitlin Clark. It seems like anywhere else, you can't stand her. Look what else is going to happen. So the TV rights deal for the WNBA right now is currently at $60 million, which is what everyone's been complaining about because of the drop in the bucket. Well, rumors are speculating after this year, the negotiation rights are coming into play. That could increase over double. Again, all rumors at this point, but even that, what's going to happen. Right now, it's shooting at about $120 million. And you go, okay, all because of what she's done and what she's accomplished, and the amount of hate she's getting is absolutely absurd. I know that it's just, it's something that's been bothering me since it happened. She is the greatest shooter in the history of the NCAA. Goes first overall, and we knew look, if you're great, they hate you. I mean, we get it. But the amount of hate this girl's receiving is absolutely insane. I've loved watching the Indiana Fever play basketball. I'm not sure if you caught any games, but overall, I'm hopeful for it. I love it. I feed off the hate. But that's my 2 cents. Everybody knock it off. If it wasn't for her, you'd still be making $60 million a year in your TV rights deal. She's cropped up to $120 million. All right, Gerry, let me hit your 2 cents. Let's close this thing off with a bang. Hit me with it.
Well, my 2 cents, Chris, still focuses on hockey, and it's from about a week or 10 days ago. And I speak specifically of the Miramichi Timberwolves and their MHL championship. I salute them this week, not for just winning the championship, something they haven't done in their existence, in their 24-year existence, but merely the huge season they had battling against arch rivals to get the championship, and then all the doubters as they went to Centennial Cup in Oakville, Ontario. They go to the Centennial Cup as nobody knew them. Nobody at all knew about the Miramichi Timberwolves in the MHL. They were all certain that Summerside would be there or Edmundston would be there because they were in the top 10 throughout the regular season of the CJHL rankings that came out every week. Where did these Miramichi Timberwolves come from? Well, the Timberwolves make it all the way to the semifinals at the Centennial Cup, Chris, and they bowed out on May 18th to the eventual winner, the Collingwood Blues of the Ontario Junior A Hockey League. As a matter of fact, the only 2 losses, the Timberwolves went 4-2 during the round robin and into the playoffs. Their only 2 losses were to the 2 teams that played in the final, Melfort and Collingwood. Collingwood beat Melfort in the final, if you didn't hear, by a score 1-0 in a fantastic game if you had a chance to watch it. The Timberwolves were the MHL champs for just the first time in their existence, 3-1 during the round robin, and then winning in the quarterfinals and then falling in the finals at the Centennial Cup. But by doing so, Chris, in this neck of the woods, they injected a degree of excitement. They injected a degree of pride in all of the Miramichi hockey fans by the way that they not only handle adversity and skepticism and the rivalries they went up to, but with their determination in the way that they amazingly went through their regular season and the playoffs and into the Centennial Cup. You know, nobody knew, as I say, the Timberwolves before they arrived in Oakville, you know, from this little northern city in New Brunswick, but they do know them now. And so not only do I, but the community salutes the Miramichi Timberwolves for a fantastic season in the MHL and on to the Centennial Cup. We salute you. We thank you for watching Our 2 Cents. For Chris, I'm Gerry. Hope to see you next week.